Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the LittleWins podcast, season 4, episode 6. So sorry for the delay in episodes, and thank you all for your messages that encourage us that you are listening and you are enjoying our shows. For me, the podcast has always been such a pleasure and a joy to do and to share because a lot of those conversations were born out of things I needed and for my family in other ways, and to be able to share them and have them bring information to your life, I take very seriously and take great responsibility for the content over just like a whole bunch of episodes all at once just to throw things out there. The quality of the content is of utmost importance. So I have found a few people that I think you are really going to enjoy, and we're going to kick it off with straight out of Kentucky, who's someone who's become a very dear friend of mine recently, Mo Wolford of mobility. He's a mobility consultant of Superior Van and Mobility, and just a gem of a human. So, hey Mo, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm honored.
Ah, thank you. We're so excited. It took a little arm twisting, just like a little, right?
Just a little, but
So
I'm,
it
I'm
was just like a little tiny bit. But I just think that your story is so interesting. And then our story of how we came to be is pretty cool too. So would you mind starting with a little background on who you are, Mo?
yes. So my name is Mo Wolford. I am married. I have 4 children, and I would guess at this point call them young adults. They're 23 to 31 years old. Um, 3 boys, sons, and then a baby girl. Um, I am selling mobility vans to include lifts and seating options, hand controls, computerization, for people to get down the road to work. We service vocational rehab, we service veterans, and then just the general public, which is the majority of our business there. Uh,
Mhm.
it's people with mostly in wheelchairs that need either transportation or be able to drive to get to work with the assisted devices. And some people just need lifts on the back of their vehicles, or a lift that comes out of the back of the vehicle that would pick up their wheelchair or scooter to get around. So,
Right, right. To get to all the places they need to get to in a day. And that's exactly how we came to be, right?
yes,
That's
yes,
that's
we
what
did
happened here.
just by a phone call.
Yeah,
Just a phone
just
call.
a phone call. But that was lucky. So this is, guys, like one of those intrinsic moments where you you just call the number, you just find a number. I was doing research, trying to look into what was available for our specific needs, which are um we finally got the power chair for Ava, and it's a totally different, I mean, it's a lot heavier. It's not something that it can fold like her current chair, but she can drive it and she can get herself around. And that in itself, like making pizza, sidebar comment, making pizza on Thursday. She said, Mommy, can you bring that over to me? I said, no, go get it yourself. And we just had that moment of where she looked at me and was like, she realized that in her chair, she can go get it herself. And she's 10. So it's taken us 10 years. I have to turn around because I have tears in my eyes. It was a beautiful moment. But watching her navigate my very small kitchen in her chair with such precision and accuracy to get her book or whatever the thing was and go back over to the table and continue the conversation is really everything. So if you apply that one small story into everything you just said to get to work and to get, just to get through your kitchen, these things are so very important. And so what you do is critical. for, it looks like billions of people. So anywhoosie, I met Mo by dialing the 1-800 number, and luck of the draw. I don't even know how, because you're in Kentucky.
Yes.
I got to you.
Yes.
Don't you find that fascinating?
It was interesting. It was unique. Fate, maybe. I don't
I
know. We have
swear.
a nice connection. We have similar. I have a son in a wheelchair also, so another big connection for both of us. But yeah, it
That
was
was a
just
pivotal moment in the conversation when you told me that, because that's always one of my questions, and we'll get back to it, but what brought you into this position, and what drew you to your job? But when you said that you have a child in a chair too, well, then you know just exactly what I'm talking about, because I think everyone who listens to this show knows I'm very long-winded. And I'm going to tell you my whole story so that you thoroughly understand just exactly what it is that I'm looking for. And you were so patient and so there for it, because you understood. And that was really, really cool for me. So now I have this big 400-pound awesome chair that Ava can get around in herself. But what am I going to do about taking that chair to the places we need to go? So I'm calling around, I get to Mo, and you were fantastic, telling me all about the many options. It is really hard, and it can be kind of daunting, like a little bit scary when you are broaching something like this. You're looking at how much money it is, like how expensive. Obviously, it's like we're talking about equipment and machinery and ramps, all the things that you mentioned. Of course, it's going to cost a few dollars, but you just want to make sure that you get the right thing for your specific scenario. So for me particularly, one in the chair, and then I have three others. And that, I think, in one way was kind of fortunate, because it eliminated so many other options. It was like, there are other options, smaller vehicles and such, but they wouldn't work for my family. It left it to just, I think, two or three. And I'm pretty excited about the one that we're getting. I
it's
think
nice.
it's the
It's
one.
nice. It's very nice.
It's the one. And your understanding of my need to my children to be able to grow with it. I don't want to buy this massive spaceship for just a couple of years. We need to be able to grow together. We need to be able to throw in the soccer balls and the violins and the knickknacks and all of that. But most importantly, for Ava's chair to be secure and safe, and for the most efficient and modern, if I may say, because it really is, way of getting in and out in the morning, getting children out the door in general, no matter what their mobility level is like herding cats. So if the lift or the car or the other things, like, that's a lot of additional time. And so I do factor in that kind of efficiency that I lean on with this equipment. But you were just so, you understood and so informative. You told me everything I needed to know, and you were kind. And for one, I think it's hard to get anyone in customer service on the phone, like a human.
Well, we spend a lot of time asking a lot of questions.
Mhm.
Remember that I asked you, I don't know how many questions, but we try to understand your family dynamics. How many kids do you have? How many passengers? Who's in the wheelchair?
Mhm.
Okay, Ava's in the wheelchair. What's Ava's condition? How old is Ava? When's she get in this wheelchair? How much does it weigh? How big is it? Is it going to fit in the door opening? There's a lot of options out there on these vehicles. They're all expensive, like you mentioned. You take,
Mhm.
as far as expense, you take a brand new vehicle that costs anywhere from $30,000 to $50,000, and you double it plus some.
Mhm.
convert it. They literally have to take the vehicle, and there's conversion companies that do it, and they take the vehicle and they'll tear it in half,
Right.
and they take the bottom out, put a new bottom in, they widen the doors, they do all this stuff. So your entrance and exits are with space, not only left or right, but also with headroom, so you don't have to duck your head or anything else, because you're hitting steel if you do. But
Right. And not everyone can duck their head, right? Not everybody
yes,
can do that. So that's what I loved about our conversations, because we can be really silly and funny sometimes, right? Especially on Friday afternoons. But we also went about this, as I always try to, like putting myself in the chair, in Ava's abilities. She has triplegia cerebral palsy. She is severely impacted on her right side. She cannot stand or walk by herself, but she's got a sharp tongue and she'll beat you in any card game. But she may not have like the same instinct to duck,
right.
or any needs to be prompted to reach. And that's all good and okay. So that's how specific you were willing to get into, knowing the importance and longevity I was hoping to have for this vehicle. That's why I wanted you to be on this show, because not everybody has time or gets as lucky to have Mo Wolford on the other end of the line when they call, to go through each and every single scenario that could be humanly possible. And the doors, why don't you talk, would you mind talking a little bit about all the many things that you offer over at Superior Van and Mobility?
So we offer a variety of services. But first of all, we do spend a lot of time to figure out what someone needs, and then we look at the longevity of that.
Mhm.
But we have wheelchair accessible vehicles, whether that would be a minivan, so to speak, of a Honda Odyssey, a Toyota Sienna, a Chrysler Pacifica, a Chevy Traverse, and then we have full-size vehicles like the Dodge ProMaster and the Ford Transit that are obviously a full size.
Right.
We lifts that we offer. We do hand controls. We do computerization as far as people that. So Ava drives with the joystick.
Right.
My son Mitchell drives his chair with the joystick. There's
Okay.
people that drive down the road every day that drive with a joystick. You just
Yeah,
don't know it.
it's pretty cool.
So we do a lot of those type of things. And
Okay,
those,
so you're saying as the driver, I was gonna ask you that. So you also do that if Ava were, of driving age, then it.
yes. And we do that internally. So we don't convert the vehicles ourselves. We represent um, Braun Ability, Vantage Mobility, Adaptive Mobility, and then Tempest. Your vehicle has a Tempest conversion.
Right.
And if anything beyond that that needs to be installed, as far as hand controls that are as simple as a push and a pull of a mechanism that goes along the side of the steering wheel down into the pedals for acceleration or brakes, and then more sophisticated, like I was saying, with computerizations and an actual computer tower inside the vehicle, we do that in-house. Some of those can take 4 to 6 weeks of 1 to 2 guys working every day to tear that vehicle apart again. So it gets torn apart when it gets converted. It comes into Superior, and if we have a client that needs a lot of highly sophisticated adaptive equipment so they can get up and down the road, then we have some technicians that will tear the front of that vehicle, the whole dashboard out, the left and right door panels, and all of a sudden you've got nothing but wires. And then
That
they
is so cool.
install, um, and you're looking at, I mean, it's a lot of colors and just a lot of tentacles, a lot of wires.
Yeah.
And they would install lots of sophisticated things, some harnesses for people to put their hands into, just to push and pull maybe they can't use their hands as much, but they can put their arm in a device for their wrists and they can push back and forth, and that'll maybe work the steering wheel or it will use the
Like a
gas.
swing almost. That's really interesting. But that was
Very sophisticated.
it's
Very
very sophisticated, but that's as like, hi, let's me again. Brand new, brand new here, remember? And like just tell me everything because they don't really know and it's not very clear anywhere um just exactly what's available. And that's because every person is different, their needs are different, and that you guys are capable and able, willing to, and honestly awesome at meeting those individual needs. It's not like you can just make these cars in mass production for in one certain way. And that's what I didn't understand. And I think that a lot of people don't right off the bat is that we are going to tear up a car and we're going to make it fit Ava. And I loved that.
Yes, so they're very customizable. Absolutely.
That was really awesome. How long have you been there? How long have you been with the
I'm
car?
just 5.5 years. So my son had an accident on June of 2017, and he had a horrible accident
I'm so sorry. No,
that
I didn't know that was the case.
uh, it's a strange story, but he was walking down railroad tracks where the tracks were there was double. He had headphones in,
Wow.
listening to music as loud as it can be, and there's a train came on the other side of the double track, and somehow he went straight up in the air and he landed on his head. Um, that's all I know. I haven't didn't talk to the witness, didn't feel I needed to or anything. But so he had a traumatic brain injury. Then he had a stroke. We spent, oh gosh, 3 to 4 months in the hospital. Kind of a short stay, really, for some
I
that
was just gonna say, I mean, that seems like relatively quick for such an injury. I mean, first of all, he is alive.
he's alive. Didn't break a bone in his body. Like I said, I don't know.
What? You never told Mo, you never
He
told me
broke a.
anything about this. This is
Okay, yeah, I guess not.
no, because I was talking about me and my needs and like, see,
No, that's
I'm so
no,
sorry.
it's good. It's all good. So
So
yeah,
when how old was he at the time? Do you mind if I ask?
21.
Okay. Well, I have mentioned on the podcast, this has come up a few times. And so I always like to, I mean, yeah, once a mom or a dad, always a mom or a dad. Listen, folks, when you're outside, you got to take one of those AirPods out. You need to at least like slide one back. You need to be aware of your surroundings. It's very dangerous not to. I love music just as much as the next person. I really do. And I love blasting it in my ears. I really do,
Yes.
but not when you're out there in the matrix with things flying by and everybody's got to get somewhere. Not everybody's looking out for you. You have to look out for you. So,
And it's
um,
common.
yeah,
The bad thing is I understand all that, and a train is it's a roar and the vibration is incredible, but you can be in your own world and it's common, evidently.
yes.
But
Well, I live next to a train actually, next to the metro, and you feel it in the house. Like just it is kind of like it's very subtle. Most people say they can't feel it, but I can feel it. And it is kind of calming. But we maybe just need to remind ourselves of like being aware of the
it's
sound too.
just a bizarre accident.
It
Just
is a bizarre accident, but he didn't break a bone in his body.
no,
How?
I don't know.
He's
I
Superman.
just
Stop
didn't.
talking about it so he's not
No,
identified.
I didn't pursue it. I will one day, and there's a report. They had to do a police report, and I just, had talked to the police officers and the ambulance, and they told me about how common that this is, believe it or not, these young kids with these blaring music, and then they're, just kind of
Oh, I believe you. That's why I took the sidebar comment of like friendly reminder, but I do believe you. Absolutely. Mhm.
yeah. So it's So,
But
and
you haven't read it. You didn't, the point is you didn't read any of the, I don't know if I would either.
so
I just wanted to know, like, after when Ava had her, her accident in the delivery, I didn't, well, they, one, didn't really give me any information, and then two, tried to bury it. But then three, when I got it back, I haven't read it.
yeah,
Because what I wanted was, I just wanted her. Did you feel that way? Like, I just wanted her to just be with me, be like, make it through the night, be with me, and we're good to go. We'll figure it out. The rest, as they say, is history.
right.
We need to know what I'm working with now. Did you feel
You're
that?
exactly right, because you just want things back to where they were. It's like getting punched in the stomach.
I just want them with me,
Right.
alive with me.
The
And
details at that point doesn't really,
no,
okay, this is the boat we're in. And we got here quick.
yeah, in an instant.
Yes.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. So he was 21, that was in 2017. And now where are we? How are we doing? Everybody's good?
Well, we are, um, Mitchell can talk. He's a little slow to respond because he's got a traumatic brain injury and a stroke. So on his left side impairment, so he can walk just very short distances, but he can transfer
That's a big deal. That's
in
a
and out of. That is a huge deal.
Yeah,
There's
well, remember when I told you, I said Ava's almost as big as me and she cannot do that. I need to hold her up and we walk together, which is but she's starting to get so tall and weigh almost as much as me that now we're talking about a totally different game because we want to get her in the chair she can drive herself around in the car that can drive her around in. But how do we get her into the chair is my next adventure. Stay tuned. But that's a big deal for that traumatic. I mean, he sounds really remarkable. For that traumatic of an accident and then also followed by a stroke is to be able to walk, even if it is short distances, that's incredible.
Yes. So he wears a gait belt to wear around his waist. So I walk behind him and hold onto the gate belt with my left hand, and I um, take his right hand and my right hand, and we're holding together.
Mhm.
So we kind of walk mechanically together. Um, like I said, he can talk. He's slow to respond from the brain injury. He plays pretty good cards too.
I'm like, he may just be ignoring you because that is something that Ava will do sometimes,
Well,
him just a little.
yes.
But
So
that's, yeah, I love the way that you are walking with the gate. That's how I walk with Ava. Like I hold her, with her trunk support and almost as if you're training. I told you when we first met, like a toddler how to walk with, between your legs, just leg, and together. And I love that. I always want to be able to do that. There's
yes,
something like really cool about, like you said, like right hand and right hands. Like we're just in stride together. There is something really, really beautiful about that. But does he live with you at home?
he does live at home with us. We have caregivers, so we can both work, my wife and I, which is another
Impossible to find,
another
Mo.
podcast on
Impossible
both.
to find. It is another podcast.
Very tough, very
It's
tough.
very tough to find them.
Well, Lexus, you have to find them, but then you have to trust them, and then you have to trust them enough that you don't know well, and they got free roam of your house to.
Oh, I work from home. My whole life is designed around that exact fear.
Yes. So
What you're talking about, like I designed my whole entire life around that just one single fear. Maybe I'm a control freak, but also, I mean, control what you can.
yes.
That's
So,
that.
and they come and go, and then you have services. We haven't had real luck with the services, just as far as that provide um, caregivers. The quality doesn't. Um,
Well, it's never going to be you, right?
well,
But
no,
but it
it's
is
not.
really hard. Can we calling all caregivers? You Like, yeah, I know they're out there. If you're in retirement, come back out. It's such a time of need for people who, if I didn't have to work, I have said this before. If I did not have to work, I would while my kids were at school because I understand the huge importance, the quality of life for people who cannot move from one floor to another, who can't go to the bathroom without the assistance of another, but don't have that person. We're talking about going to the bathroom, going down to the kitchen. These things are just, it should be just a basic human right to be able to do. And
And it ends up
but
being,
shoulda, coulda, woulda, and it's not the case. And it's a lot of people. And I was going to tell you in the facts that I was researching earlier, um, so 20% of the people with disabilities, and I did not know this story about your family, are from they're vehicular, and then it says like also due to, train, bus, um,
yes.
all these other things. So 20%. And that's over a certain age. If it wasn't at birth, it's in a certain category. That's a very large number. Um, and so imagine that. For everyone always says to me, it must be so strange for Stella to have to, she's a typically developing 10-year-old, Ava's twin, and Ava can't walk. I mean, nothing's ever been strange in my family because that's just, we are who we are, right? Like we're all different. And that's what I've always put the focus on, is that even if you're twins, like even if we were all walking and running around together, we'd still be entirely different people. So just that. But and then they ask, is it strange for Ava? And that was a massive phase. And I always wonder if it'll resurface when she started to realize that her twin could do things that she couldn't do. Or when they were really little and Stella wouldn't walk when she was near Ava. She would like knee scoot
That's
around.
tough. What you're touching on is tough.
And it's really, really tough. And it's hard as a parent. And they don't put this in the books. Like they don't tell you, there's no playbook on how to handle that. You just got to lead with your heart and vulnerability, and really focus on teaching them how to verbalize what it is that they're feeling, which is a lifelong journey, isn't it, folks?
And
But
it changes the dynamics of the whole family.
right. So I'm wondering what's interesting to me is, well, everything about you, Mo, is interesting to me, first of all. But I had like, that was our straight out of the gate. This is who we've always been. But to think that this happened later how did that, was it about the same, do you think? Or what is it like?
Um,
What
so I was 57, 56 when this happened. I took off work. I didn't work for 3 months. We have a nice rehab hospital here in Louisville, Kentucky that's world renowned, I guess, Fraser Rehab Institute, to where people come from all around the country, believe it or not, with different um, accidents that they have, mostly belonging to the spine. That's for your mobility, walking and arms.
I'll put it in the footnotes so everyone can,
We,
everything we mentioned, so
um,
a resource, yeah.
I went through rehab with my son the whole time. So we were, my wife were there. One of us spent the night with him the whole time, the whole 4 months,
Mhm.
till we got him home, 4+ months. And then we went through the rehab with him, and because we wanted to, but you got to learn on what to do. So,
So
it was,
that's very similar, right? Isn't that what I told you about my experience? Like you're like a fish out of water.
yes,
Thanks for the leaflet, but it doesn't really give me any information on how to do this.
yes,
So, but that was just later after he was already 21 years old.
right. And that was tough. And
Yeah.
it's still tough.
Well,
Uh,
yeah.
you still learn.
I know you're making me kind of cry, but it's okay. Keep going.
But you learn a lot from, well, you learn a lot about yourself
About
real
yourself.
quick.
Mhm.
And then you learn that you gotta, pick it up and keep going. And it's tough. I'm telling you, you get punched in the stomach and you get punched in the stomach, and that's just the first 10 minutes. And then the next day and the next day. But
And
then
it's
it
in the
gets
throat
better.
and the stomach, punch in the throat that you can't breathe, right?
Oh, it's
Like then you just, yeah. But you have to remember, and that's why I fight so hard, just like you do, for mobility, for access to whatever, because when you come back, it reminds me of that saying, like, it doesn't matter how many times you get knocked down, it matters how many times you get back up.
right.
And that builds a different mentality, because you have to realize that you are the backbone of that family. You are the thing that they need. And it's not about you, but you do need to also process your feelings in all of your free time that you don't have. Like, it's just this like crazy. And I laugh because it is insane, but you do somehow, little by little, kind of start to work it out by just getting back up, right? Something that simple, just
You
trying
have
again.
to just keep
Just trying.
going, and you have to believe that you can handle it, and you have to believe in yourself, and then you just make things, you do the best you can, and things work out. I think when you do that,
Mhm.
um, of course, it's nice to have a lot of support, which we had, um, through families and friends, at least in the beginning. Mitchell had a slew of friends that were at the hospital the first 2 weeks. And then to this day, he has just a couple, which is kind of sad. But they kind of just drift on. They're moving along. Of course, they're in their 20s and
I was
they're
gonna say it's also that
going
time,
to
like that
college. They're
age
getting
gap.
married. They got a girlfriend. They got, they're moving on with their lives. So that's tough.
Yeah.
Um,
But
you know,
that's a natural transgression of like the, lifetime, season, or reason kind of friendship relationships. But when you think of it in like an accident when you're friends, it's kind of changes the tone a little for me.
yes.
I'm like, hello. Um, but at least we know the ones that are still around are the good ones. And who needs a million friends? It's like it's just so much so much more to think about. I'm just glad he has friends. But I'm glad you had support. Not everyone has support either. I didn't. Um, and that it does make it isolating. But if you're someone who's kind of like bossy and really interested in doing an impossible amount of research and then driving that whole show, maybe it was better off that way.
Well,
You
you
know?
got through it though, right?
Yeah. No matter who you are. So it wasn't, so what you're saying is it wasn't really a different experience for you than what I had, even though my situation was like right out of the gates when she was born, and yours was 21 years later. You had a similar, like we went through the same process, is what it sounds like, of just being like, what do we do now?
It's, you get over the initial shock and you figure it out because you have to and you want to.
Oh
It's not,
yeah.
it's more that you want to.
More that you
We
want to.
talk, you would do anything for Ava. I would do anything for Mitchell.
I'd do anything for any one of my children and like a lot of their friends.
I'd do anything for a lot of people that I meet
Yes.
if I
Well,
can.
you have done a lot for me, and we're going to get to that. We are going to get to that. But I'm just so curious. So, did you start working with mobility vans? Because I truly don't know.
So at
After
that time,
or
I had a sales job, and so we needed a van after, oh gosh, 9 months to a year. Mitchell
you had a minivan?
got to where we needed a minivan. So I walked into Superior Van Mobility, and we were looking at vans. We were sticker shocked
Yeah.
with the pricing because I
Yeah.
couldn't understand why they were 2.5 times what a regular van was.
Right.
So I had to digest that, and that was a sticker shock digest. And then through the course of meeting with the salesman and the general manager, I just said, I really like this place. It seems like y'all do a really good job here. I'd like to work here. And
I love that. I thought that's where we were going with this. And how did I not know that?
it's
I
very
honestly
true.
thought you worked that. It's so cool.
So the general manager, Rob Lloyd, he
Cool.
said, send me your resume. We had some distant friends that knew each other, I guess, that we kind of
Get out of here.
chatted for 2 minutes about, and I sent him a resume and went through the interviews, and that's how I ended up there. So, and
Mo.
I love it. It's very rewarding to get back.
Well,
And
and I can tell that's what I thought, why I thought you worked there for like 30 years, because of the passion and compassion you put into the conversation. I'm honestly as shocked as everyone else who's going to hear this, that you that just happened a couple years ago. Because as a first time caller, you it comes through. And the way that you put equal amounts of 100% of your attention on each and every single detail leads me to always feel like clearly you're well versed, and you've been doing this you are well versed, but you're like seasoned. What's the word I'm thinking of? Like a tenured, you've been your whole life, like you're grandfathered in. But to think that you just, when you went in with your van and said, yeah, I want to do this, I love that. Why didn't you
when
tell me
it's,
that?
I wish I would have found it years ago. It's that rewarding.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
we kind of touched on it earlier, but it's about Ava getting her power
Mhm.
chair, and it's giving her independence. And then
Mhm.
you get a vehicle, and then she gets in that power chair, and you go to the zoo. And Ava's kind of around, she's able to get through the zoo. You're able to go to coach your soccer, and then Ava's allowed to be right there with you.
And I have been always okay with pushing her manual chair through. I mean, try me is basically what I was at Red Rocks once, and I wrote them a very strong worded letter about how their ADA baloney excuse for accessibility was not working at all. I just carried her up those steps because she wanted to go with her siblings.
Yeah.
And I would rather die at the very top than say, no, no, you can't go, because that's what we do for our kids. And
Yes.
we don't want them to think that the whole world didn't think about the planning it would take if, let's say, I don't know, contractors and architects, have you ever had a knee surgery? I bet you have. Would you have been able to get up Red Rocks? I'm just asking. But it's like, but we would do anything for our kids. And the reward in like through that effort is, I think, what heals the pain from that moment, from the punches to the stomach and the ones to the throat, is those breakthrough moments, not just for your family, a lot of times, because your family's going to be, you've got your family. For me, it's in being able to extend that to others too. And that's where I really feel where it starts to just like get easier to breathe and hurt less and make more sense. And um, it puts action to an emotion, that I could just sit in, but what good does that do? And I could carry everybody up the stairs with that kind of fire in
Right.
my belly. But that's what I loved about meeting you. I'm still in shock. I'm still not fine about how you didn't tell me that it was one of those walk in, apply for a job kind of deal. That's pretty rock and roll. Like, that really is.
Absolutely.
Like, and he's like, and I knew some people, we had mutual friends, like who needs like a background check or whatever. I'm just like, I'm here for it. That is so cool because how did it was destiny. What did you say it was when it was like the switchboards just put me straight through to Mo? What on the unbelievable. Very cool. Well, I've been very glad to be here, and I've tried not to be annoying, and I've really enjoyed the process, and that's why we have this podcast and why I went through the spiel in the beginning of how particular I am about like the shared information is a tremendous amount of the value of Little Wins. It's not just the equipment or the supplies, it's that if I've already had these conversations, like, why have you exhaust all your extra time and energy trying to get to the same place? Let's talk about it, and let's talk about it with somebody like you. And that's when it was time to get it back up and running. Should we talk about Ava's new car?
We can,
I
yes.
like I get so excited about this. Although I do think that we are going to have to drive straight down both lanes in most of the streets in my neighborhood because we're talking, it's a sizable vehicle. Would you like to tell the people about my new spaceship for Ava?
It is a Dodge ProMaster full-size van with what's called a Tempest conversion, which means nothing more than it has a door on the right side with a ramp. It's called an UVL, under vehicle lift. It goes underneath the vehicle. So when you open the door, it doesn't impede
Mhm.
um, the ramp, whether it would fold out or fold to the left or right, but it's not, you cannot see it until you operate it, and it comes out from underneath the vehicle, goes down to the ground. Ava drives up on that. You secure, there's a flap that comes up, it picks her up to where she's level with the vehicle, and then she proceeds straight into her chair. It has tie downs. You always secure someone in a wheelchair, they always face forward. That's how your body is mechanically works for crash testing or
Mhm.
for safety. You tie down all four corners. She still wears a seatbelt. You push a button, that lift goes back out of the vehicle, back underneath the van. You don't even know that it's there.
I think that's why I've been calling it a spaceship the whole time, is like the whole beam me up kind of deal, like, like just beam me up. But it
It
took
gives you maximum space.
it's maximum space, and that's what I wanted to say. So for everyone who's like, what did he just say? I know, right? I felt the same way in the first couple conversations. There are that many different variations and possibilities, and truly with you guys, the world is your oyster, because they're going to take that thing straight down to the wires and put it back together just exactly the way that you need it. And wow, what um what a tremendous thing to be able to provide for people. That
Yeah.
But for us, for my situation, the beam me up thing made the most sense, because when we were talking about, the amount of children I've made, and just where they are in their ages, and how we still travel together. They're not driving, they're not going to be probably ever if I let them. Terrified. Oh, I'll let them drive, but like, when they're like 30 or something, it'll be fine. When it's safe out there.
It's out there.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Just a little clingy.
Yeah.
Um, for the lift, it could be through the back. So I wanted to I want everyone to understand that all the many cars you already discussed, you listed quite a few. The variations most frequently that you see for lifts, what is that? From the back, right? And then also the side.
You have, yes. So you have other lifts that fold
Mhm.
to where you could have had the choice to have a lift that would fold straight out of that vehicle. You would open that door and that lift would smack you right in the face. And then it would come fold
Some,
out the
some
ground.
days I would welcome that,
So, but you can't access that door unless you
Sure.
operate that lift.
Yeah.
So, a lot of those applications are more for commercial, to where we do a lot of like take your van and add 6 or 8 seats in it and then put a lift in it and just have a relatively in their plain Jane, but it's more for transportation. It's
I was
for
gonna
a,
say now
for
we're going
a hospital.
yeah, we're on like we're on a tour, right?
Totally.
Now we're on a tour.
Then
And
yeah,
and that's when you would need that. So this is why we put Ava and guys, I want you to know that when we were placing her chair, I was like, I mean, I kind of wanted a little bit, but let's look at the weight and balance of it. That's how specific you were willing to get with me, just to make sure that it quelled any. That's why I'm such a huge fan. But the smack me in the face kind of deal is not great. Also, wouldn't full it's impossible to park anywhere at either one of the two schools that I have to do a drop off at in the morning before 9 a.m. And I just can't imagine. I actually would like to imagine rolling out that ramp in the zero space there is. Just being like beep, beep, beep. We don't even care. It's coming out. That would be hilarious. But it's not what would be best for the area or most importantly for Ava. So the side was the most important.
yes, you can put them in the rear also, but kind of a different animal when you do that.
Yeah,
So
I would need a landing strip with the size of vehicle. I need a whole runway. But it is important to note that if you are in the industry where you can have these and they are needed, and I have all the information here about how big this industry is right now and how big it's about to get because of the growing need for them. If you're someone who, and God, I hope you do, you're starting a business where you would like to accommodate all people, I would highly suggest looking into to what you just described, right? The like more of a, what is that, an 8 passenger?
can be.
Could be more, and then have that. So the outlet, consider the options because there are so many, and because it's difficult to find due to all the algorithms and burying of important information. I'm not mentioning any names, but I think we all know who I'm talking about. It's out there, and I just want to read this fun fact for you. The global wheelchair accessible vehicle market is valued at 1.9 billion in 2023. And we're talking about the industrial ones, like the bigger ones for companies. And what do you call that? Was that the right verbiage? Did I mess that up?
It's good. Commercial.
Commercial, right? Yeah,
You're
commercial.
on. You're on
Okay,
it.
we got it. Worldwide sales of wheelchair accessible vehicles are set to reach 2.8 billion by 2033. So I don't really care about your billions and your dollars amounts. What I read in that is that there's a growing need due to the accidents, due to the thing, what's going on physically and all the things we've talked about in previous episodes and all of that. I don't want to scare anybody. But I do want everyone to be educated on the facts that, and if you're going to start a company, if you're even a tour guide, God, I love tour guides, consider wheelchair accessible vans, and the options are endless. And there can be, how can we afford it though? How do we afford it if are there
That's tough. The funding, so there's different funding sources in general.
okay.
Um, so if you're a veteran and you are service connected to where you were injured in the service, whether an active war or just being in the service, they provide assistance for both the chassis and the conversion, and they pay for almost the whole thing on your first van,
Oh, wow.
which is
The
very nice.
chassis too?
Yes, they pay. They have a set allotment that they'll pay, 25, 26,000, and then so you might get a $90,000 vehicle that costs you 15,000 or $12,000. If you're working, a great benefit for people is that if you're working, and that's whether you want to be a driver to get to work, or if you just are a passenger and you have someone take you to work, there's assistance there for the conversion and training and the adaptive equipment.
How do they find that? Do you know, or I can
That's
look
through the states. That's
up
called,
through the.
so if you would Google Illinois workers vocation, or I'm sorry, Illinois vocational rehab, or
Vocational, okay. I just didn't know if
um,
there was another one.
it
Yeah,
might
so
be termed something different there. Um,
no, I think that it is
they
that, but also
train.
transportation assistance, and you could go under here, you can go under accessibility. Uh, there's a lot of resources, but they're not the same, like you're saying, in every state. They're different.
Yes, but primarily they all will lend assistance towards that conversion equipment and training. So, in order to drive down the road with hand controls or something, you have to be trained.
I need to be trained for my spaceship. We are trained, and we should tell them. Is that this Friday? Oh my God,
It's
Mo.
this Friday.
Coming in T-4 days.
Yes.
The Tempest is landing, and we are going to do a little video of it because everyone's so excited. My kids, myself, we've spent so much time, love, and energy into this with the excitement of her power chair and her ability just to get her book from the kitchen while we're making pizza. The whole thing is coming to just like a massive kaboomski when the Tempest arrives at my door. I want to just touch on that before we depart, on what you did for me, just on that. But I feel like I can fly small planes and large vehicles. I can drive, and I'm a pretty good driver, I think. But there's something about this vehicle that I don't know. I'm gonna take it to an empty parking lot. It's like when I first learned to drive stick when I was like 14. I'm gonna take it across the street to an empty parking lot. I'm just gonna stop and go till I'm gonna turn until I get a feel for it. But I am so excited about it because it fits everything that we need. It's able to accommodate her chair. And yeah, if you see us on the road, you better move out the way because I'm pretty sure it doesn't fit in one single lane in a lot of our roads. And I'm not sorry. Okay. That's the truth. But when we couldn't figure out how to get it. So I do want to, this was another miracle. Maybe we live through those moments where you get sucker punched on repeat, and you have to get up every day and you can't believe that you still do, and you just keep going. I think that I live through those moments to have the ones later on, and sometimes they come years later. You gotta wait for the ones where I say, Mo, I really need this vehicle. And it turns out there's one already ready. Remember that?
Right.
And it wasn't that far away. That was insane. When I got the chair faster than I thought I was going to be able to, and I was like, oh my God, I'm going to have this chair and nothing, like no word. What am I going to say, Ava? You can just do wheelies in the kitchen, but we can't go anywhere with it. And Mo, you found it. There was one and it was available. I said I'd give a kidney. Did I say a kidney or my firstborn? I'm like, whatever. No, I don't remember what I said, but I know it was totally inappropriate. I was like, I will give you anything to hold that Tempest right where it's at. And it's somewhere in Michigan. And then we were trying to organize how to get there, knowing that I'm a single parent and the other one's a single parent. Everybody's got things to do, but also work to be done. The way that you were so patient and clearly searched for that vehicle and streamlined ways to make it all possible as fast and efficiently as possible. You did that. You did that.
We got lucky. I'm telling you.
We got a little lucky. We
Got
got
a
a
little
little
lucky.
lucky, but you also worked,
Yes.
like, you also clearly
Well,
worked.
I'm persistent, but we got a little lucky too.
But that's what, but don't you think I'll
So
take that luck because I took all those sucker punches?
you deserve that
Kept
luck.
going. Do you know what I mean?
I
So
deserve that luck for you.
that's what I'm saying. We deserve
Yes.
that luck because that's what I'm trying to tell the people that feel like it's hopeless. Like, you may go years where you're like, golly, I don't know who I pissed off, but man, I could really use a break, you know? I could really use a break. And then all of a sudden, you get that kind of break and you meet somebody that's willing to work on the same, and then you do get it sprinkled with a little fairy dust or bibbity bobbity boo, and your van is actually available currently. There's only one. And it's in the same color. I was
I
like,
was a little nervous about that.
I was like, here's where I get grumpy. Like, Ava said she wants this color, and so, like, I can't. Do you remember that conversation? That
Yes,
feels like years
I
ago.
remember.
We could, is there a way we can wrap it? It was absurd, everyone. But and we just wanted Ava to be happy. And also to be able to grow with this vehicle. I feel like we executed this. We understood the assignment, right?
You were on it. You did
We were
homework.
on it.
Well, but you knew. So there's always a learning curve, but your learning curve was
Everything.
short because you had done so much homework. You had put your, you had so much knowledge about what you wanted, what you thought would work, and I just had to fine tune it from there. You made my job kind of easy
Oh,
in that respect because the learning curve was so short because you'd done a little homework. So because these are
homework's important. That is
hard to
important.
find. So
Yeah. Well, thank
you
you
were
for
on
that.
it. You were on it. You need to pat yourself on the back.
I was gonna say, I'm really comfortable with compliments. Do you see what I'm doing here? I'm like, doing great. Doing great.
Now,
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. I do think that it's critical that everyone does their homework, because you have to go into a conversation having at least a very little bit of an understanding of what you're asking. Otherwise, you're never going to get the answer you need. We're not going to get anywhere. That's always been one of my messages. I am not someone who's classically trained in any one field, nor do I have, all the diplomas to say that I know everything. But I have Google, and I
right?
have books, and I can YouTube videos on how-tos, and I can figure it out. We have the resources. So you know what your question is. You have got to have at least a baseline understanding of what you're looking for in order to ask the questions and get to what you need.
Yes.
Because no one expects anyone to walk into. I told you, remember the first time I talked to you, I'm like, so no shit, I have no idea. I have no idea what I need, but here's what I know I need. By way of vehicle, you figure that out.
And
So
then we
here's a whole bunch
asked
of
a lot
stories.
of questions and we both figured it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's been so magical. I can't wait to see it, but like, I kind of really think you should come here to see it. Can you bring your wife and your kid? Like,
We need a vacation, but I hear you.
you do realize it's not like very for like Red Rover, Red Rover. I don't know. Let's talk about it offline, but I really do think that we kind of need to high five. I want a solid high five,
I
right?
hear you.
Yeah, we did.
This
It's
has been good.
it's a
This has
big
been good.
deal. And your experience, the reason, okay, first of all, let's start over. Your life experience, your beautiful outlook on family. You don't even have to say it. It just rings through everything you say. It's incredible. And it's not everybody has that. The reason you just walk in, you're like, this is awesome. I want to do that. And you're the one I get a hold of when I'm like, I have no idea what's happening, but I know what I need.
Right.
That is why we do this. So I am going to put all of our resources and everything, like the links. And I would love it if there was anything else you wanted to add for anyone who's just totally lost on what they would need for a vehicle. Let's start with what should they ask? Why don't we give them the questions to ask?
I think you
Like if
gotta
we're
sit
saying
back.
it's like, yeah, like an injury or something, like what are the first 3 questions they have to ask to get to the next level of their choices?
So you've got to look at your situation and see what your short-term goal is,
Mm.
long-term, and then educate yourself on how you're going to get there.
Mhm.
So some people have short-term needs. Most of these needs are long-term.
Mhm.
Um, as far as, these vehicles are expensive. Is my life going to change in 5 years? Is Ava going to get a bigger chair or a heavier chair? She might, but it's not going to make a difference.
Right.
As far we've covered that, but um,
Oh, we've covered that.
and you've got to do your homework, and then you got to feel comfortable with who you're dealing with, and just make sure that it's a company. Superior's been around for, we've been doing this for 40 something years. So I'm lucky to where I work that there's a lot of seasoned people that I work with, and I can get answers. And still, I might have to call 5 people to get an answer, but I can get an answer.
Right.
So, but you got to picture, first, Lexus, you have to just figure out where you're going to be. You got to take your time and then just kind of digest it, and then do like you did and educate yourself
Yeah.
and ask
Well,
questions.
how about the day I called you out of nowhere and I was like, oh my God, what about the tires? I just had a thought about remember that day? I'm like,
Yes.
hey, you have to put yourself in the situations where you're going to need the car. And out of nowhere, I was doing something entirely different. And I had a flashback to shoveling when my gentleman did not come, whatever, my shoveling guy, well, they are no longer, but the guys that come and shovel, because I have shovels, but I have 4 children. I'm a single mom and a long driveway. So they do that for me. Well, they hadn't come. So here I am shoveling. I tell them all the whole story. Here I am shoveling. I'm sweating. The kids are crying because they're in their snowsuits and I'm not ready to take them to school and they're hot now, but it's not even 8 o'clock in the morning. And all of a sudden I'm like, what about the tires? Do I need all weather tires? And I start to just put yourself in the scenarios. Maybe don't threaten Mo the way that I did with my Tales from the Dark Times. But think about the times when it was easy, when it's tough, in the moments where you need it on a pinch. And that, I think, narrowing it down to, here are my needs. This is the distance. This is the climate. This is, how many people. Those things will really be helpful. And then, God, if there's someone that ever listens to this and you have, I don't know, like a couple $1 billion just laying around, this is an industry that could really use some help. Like this entire situation really needs help. It's expensive for people. It's expensive for people who have money. It's expensive for those of us with insurance. And they just want to move the same as anybody else. And so I always am asking, if you're one of those and you really want to do something really cool, this is the place for those funds. Throw it into just a massive purchase of vehicles, you know? or do anything that would help, because the equipment and the work, like you're saying, it's not like it's not that it's more expensive than any other car because it's a mobility vehicle. It's because the time and the craftsmanship that has to go into it. See, back to cutting it into pieces, dismantling it and building it back together. Those people, their time, the extra parts. It's not that you're upcharging, it's that it's a new car. But I don't think people understand that. And the system is not set up to be accessible yet, but we're gonna get there. Then we just
There's
need,
some holes. You're absolutely correct.
oh, there are quite a few, quite a few. But you never know. Someone could be just like listening to your podcast and they're like, whatever, I'm a bored billionaire and I would like to do something interesting. And so I always kind of say, holla. Let's come up with some magic, because you guys have the skills. We have the skills, we have the knowledge, we have the data, the analytics, we know everything that you need to know. But it's hard for people to afford the things they need just to move from floor to floor. And sometimes just to get to the bathroom.
Right.
And we gotta stop that. One parent to another, Mo.
That's right.
That's right. I
That's
can't believe you. You sound by 5 years and you just, that whole story, you shocked me. That's so cool. That's the coolest thing I've heard all day. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for, on a personal note, thank you for just always answering the phone for my every single question. Even when I was talking about this one time, I was shoveling my drive and will the tires be, long story short, will the tires be okay in snow?
got an
Like,
answer.
wow, no, long-winded. But it's just, I have to play it out in my head. But yeah, you nailed it. I'm excited about it. And I can't wait to see you on Friday with the Tempest.
Absolutely.
It's going to be a family affair.
It's going to be fun.
Thank you for your service and everything,
Absolutely.
for sharing your story.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, I will follow up. Don't worry about it with everything. If there's anything else you think about that should be added into the resources.
I'm honored to do it. And I hope someone, just at least a few people, get something out of it. So it's great what you're doing. It really is.
It's
It's
what
great.
we do.
Yes. Your podcast is awesome.
It's very fun. Thank you for being here. You're a part of the team. All right. Good night, Mo.
Thank you.